I made this video a while ago, but I never got around to editing it. At the end, Present Me will speak a bit more about the video, but without further ado, past me, take it away.
I haven't uploaded in 102 days. I'm sorry. I won't try to make excuses here, but I'll have to admit it. Being a student is not easy. Especially when you're an aspiring YouTuber, you have to juggle the fate of going to school, and although nobody really talks about this, the incredibly hard feat of keeping a human, aka yourself, alive, as well as any other extracurricular activities, therapy, working out, all the while somehow finding enough time to rest and work on YouTube. How the hell is anybody supposed to manage all of this? Lately, I've been finding it a real struggle to have time for YouTube. Okay, that's not completely true. I do technically have time for YouTube, but I need to find a time where I not only have time for YouTube, but also have the energy and motivation to make videos. A piece of advice I hear frequently is don't wait for motivation, just do the thing, just work on YouTube. But especially with my ADHD brain, I do need motivation. And especially for content creation, where motivation is extremely important. Creativity cannot exist without at least some motivation. So I have to create an environment to be motivated. And that's what this video is about. How to manage those incredibly time-consuming tasks that must be done, while having enough time for rest and enough time to do YouTube or other time-consuming creative hobby you may have. The first and largest challenge for me is school being incredibly stupid. Hi, teachers watching this, don't take it personally, please. And if you do take it personally, please don't talk to me about it in class, or anywhere for that matter. That aside, there's no changing that school can be incredibly stupid. Or at least most of it is. Especially with public school, it just seems like it's run so poorly. And they're underfunded, so they're literally poor. Teachers don't know how to use technology, which makes life even more frustrating. And school overall is just not designed well for the ADHD brain. Trust me, I could rant for hours about all of the stupid things that happen at school. And I've talked about this before on the channel. There are an endless number of things to complain about when it comes to school. To give you an example from my school life, to prevent cheating or using ChatGPT or I don't know what the reasoning behind it is. My teacher set a 2-tab limit. This includes windows of other applications as well. This means that everything on the school Chromebook is slowed down and way more frustrating than it needs to be. And I'm not talking about playing games. I'm talking about schoolwork. What she wants us to do. And I have literally thousands of examples like this. It's so dumb. And you can imagine if you're planning on making YouTube videos after this, well, safe to say, it doesn't make the best environment to do so. By the time I get back home, I am exhausted. But you can't even start yet because you need to eat a snack because they don't give you enough time to eat actual meals at school. Oh, and I also have to plug in my Chromebook, empty my lunchbox, and take out my water bottle and put it in the sink. And on Fridays, I have to empty my PE bag and put all the clothes in the hamper. And then after you have your snack, you have to go upstairs to brush your teeth and put in your Invisalign. So even though you're home now, you just spent 10 hours of your day doing nothing you wanted to do. And yet, you still have more stuff that needs doing. So you can see how even the little things get on my nerves at that point. It seems like everything in the day was specifically designed to stop me from doing my one passion, making YouTube videos. And now that I've finally sat down like I wanted to, I'm so exhausted that I don't even have the motivation to do what I was planning on doing the whole day. I want to make videos, but I just can't. I hate this feeling. I hate it. Keep in mind, this is on the best of weekdays. Most days I have an hour when I get home, and then it's straight off to the gym. Or I have an extracurricular activity that starts right after school. Or I have to get a haircut because apparently it's been so long that my hair's getting shaggy. Fun times. All of this and more. I'm sure you can fill in the gaps with so much more. A solid 5/7 of the school year just down the drain. All for what is maybe on a good week 3 hours of YouTube work, 4 if you're pushing it. But this is still under ideal conditions. In the past month-ish alone, I've gotten sick twice. Once with the stomach flu and another with the common cold.
Since then, I got COVID, and between the last upload and this one, I got a cold.
And the stomach flu was during a delightful vacation in Tahoe. Fun times. Okay, I promise this video is more than just me letting off some steam. Although I won't deny that's part of it. What I'm trying to get at is when you have a hobby that requires consistent time and effort, not to mention creativity, something like YouTube, being a quote-unquote full-time student is a massive limitation. And it's not the sort of thing, I don't want to call it cool, but a sort of unique limitation, like being blind or something, where overcoming it, people cheer you on. No, you're a pathetically normal human being, with normal and yet still very real problems. There have been millions of people like this before you, and there will be millions after. No part of your struggle is unique, no part of it is glamorous, and no part do people seem to give a flying about. Except for you. Just because your problems aren't unique doesn't make them any less real. Okay, time to stop complaining. Something easier said than done. So, how do you stop complaining? How do you stop being angry at the system? Not that you don't have the right to be angry. This system is dumb after all. But as you've probably seen over the many past years of complaining about this, or at least from me complaining about this for years, complaining fixes nothing. You might already understand this, but it's really important anyways. All complaining does is make your experience worse, and worsen the experience of everyone listening to you complain. When you haven't figured out ways to cope, to stop the feeling, the need to complain can be incredibly difficult and frustrating because you have no way to vent these emotions. And venting is the most common way for people to deal with them. But the thing is, everyone has their own things they're frustrated about. If you're just talking to your friends, they probably don't care that much about your minor problems, even if they're important to you. In fact, it makes the whole experience worse. Nobody likes a friend that just complains all the time. The opposite is true. People actively avoid those kinds of people. We all have our own problems. We don't need to hear about yours. And you probably feel the same way about them. I know I do. I know it's been a bit of a trend on this channel to gush about how great therapy is, but it truly has been great for this kind of thing. They're paid to talk to you. They're paid to care about your problems. Venting is not without merit when you have somebody that will actually be receptive to it. And even better, when you have somebody that can see through the annoyance and help you figure out what the problems are so you can reframe it in a helpful way. Therapy makes this easier because there's someone detached from your experience. But this is not to say that you need somebody else for a change in perspective. You can sit down and figure out all of these things that are getting on your nerves. And when you can recognize them, you can do things to cope with them. That is the best way that I've found that really works to stop being angry. Not just to temporarily suppress your emotions, but to actually figure them out. A few sessions ago in therapy, I vented and showed my emotions to an unusually high level for me. And after that session, I realized that this is actually the best way to go about therapy. If you show what's going on inside your head with as little filter as possible, you get the best results. And if you don't have the tool of therapy available to you, this can also be applied when going through this process of thinking through things logically and having the humility to recognize what they really are, what you're really feeling. After finishing a rant longer than what you just heard, she started to explain to me why you might be feeling angry. The unexplained anger you're feeling after coming home from school and trying to do all these things is just really a mask on your other emotions. Anger is a masking emotion. If you have all of these things stressing you out, giving you anxiety, frustrating you, or just minorly inconveniencing you, what starts out as a bunch of little, highly manageable things turns into overwhelm of your emotions, and you become defensive about it. That's what anger is. Keep in mind, this is coming from some random kid at middle school who thinks he has above average intelligence. I'm not a neuroscientist. If I'm wrong about any of this, I'm sorry. And to everyone with neuroscience PhDs in the comments, if you send me a video with the plaque of your who's or what's it and completely tear down what I just said, just remember, all PR is good PR, and I will welcome it. As I was saying a bit ago, the way to manage anger is to figure out what the things making you angry and emotionally overwhelmed are in the first place. In my experience, and I can imagine if you've got to this point in the video, you probably have a similar experience, those things are the annoyances with school and the overwhelming amount of responsibilities piling up on you. That pile can make it feel impossible to get what you want done, to make YouTube videos on a consistent basis. I've been experiencing this type of overwhelm particularly severely recently because of illness. I know when coming back from the stomach flu, I think I was in the middle of 4 group projects. One was taken care of without my effort, but the rest, as you can imagine, teammates slacked off or had their own illness to worry about. It was an incredibly stressful week. When my mom asked me in the car, "How was your day?" and I replied honestly, I'd say that I'm stressed, tired, and overwhelmed. It was not a fun week. But in the end, I managed to get everything done. Quite a bit of it was completely mental boundaries. And what I was getting completely stressed out about turned out to be an hour or so of work. When I get overwhelmed with school, this is the best coping mechanism I've found. I bring a notepad with me to school every day, and I write down all of the assignments and questions I have for teachers about what I missed, and all of the things that could possibly stress me out. I write it all down. Later, I make a more fleshed out list, perhaps in a Google Doc organized by period. And that takes the abstract overwhelm and puts it into an actionable set of tasks I can carry out. This alone fixes the problem, especially when it's an abnormal amount of overwhelm. But having the expectation from yourself that you're going to go home, do YouTube, along with going to the gym, going to therapy, and all of these other important things, which are often required to be able to work on YouTube in the first place, has still been overwhelming for me. Even if school is going well, with a light workload, the amount of socializing required can still be enough on its own to completely wear out my mental battery. If you don't have energy, it doesn't matter how much time you have. I used to look at my time management and see all this free time where I could be working on YouTube. At the time, I thought I should have been working during this time. Remember, we don't use that word anymore. Looking at wasted time made me feel really guilty. Why can't I just work? I figured out time management. But having enough time is only one part of the puzzle. The other is energy. You need both to be productive. There's this concept of an ideal self. Often, when people think of this idea, they think of something like never needing to go to school again, having unlimited money, and having a free massage parlor open 24/7, all to themselves. At least that's what I think of. But there's another version of an ideal self, one that's incredibly dedicated, that when they come home from school, they get straight into work, until dinner, and then they get back to work after dinner. Boom, that's 5 hours of work per day consistently. This is technically possible on the most theoretical of levels. However, we live in reality, not in theory. This is as unachievable for me as the first example, where the entire world has changed. And it's not hyperbole when I say that this work ethic is impossible for me. People need time to rest, or at least I do. Of course, there are the outliers like Elon Musk and Mr. Beast, who spend every waking hour on business, or expanding their media empire. Not me. I can't do any of that. That is a fact of my life, and I have to acknowledge that. I have to build something realistic around that fact if I want to succeed. Recently, I made this idea of an ideal realistic self. It's a bit of a mouthful, but I promise it will be a useful idea nonetheless. The ideal realistic self is something that's actually tangible. It's extremely possible that you can reach what this person experiences. In this world, you still go to school because that's the law, and you also have a work ethic you can realistically keep up. This imaginary person also gets sick. They have your imperfections. If you have ADHD, they have ADHD. If you need medication to get through the school day, they also need ADHD medication to get through the school day. They have your problems because they could be you. And if you work hard enough, they will be you. But for now, all you have is an idea of what this person could be. Just like an ideal self completely detached from the laws of reality, your ideal realistic self also comes in many forms and separate ideas. One idea, which I'm trying to execute on now, is a completely different approach to YouTube than I've taken before. What I've realized is that on a typical school week, it's not possible for me to have the work ethic I wish I had. After school, I'm often tired. I also have other activities going on. I've tried for many months and years to make the schedule work out. It is a sign that I should, no, we don't use that word, could have realized earlier, and would have made my YouTube experience much better. At least I think it would have. The thing is, that process is happening right now while I'm writing the script. The plan is to have no obligation to work on YouTube during the week. This frees up time to work on school and my health. This includes mental health, which includes time to relax after school. But it also includes things like having a tidy room, which makes me feel good, and getting the chores done that stress me out during the weekend, going to therapy, working out, and any social activities after school. That can include extracurriculars, but it can also include things like playing Minecraft on a server with friends. I hope you can see that just from this one part of my new routine, that my mental health and physical health will improve drastically. Of course, there's still the problem that I'm not working the slightest. Actually, that's not completely true. I have no obligation to work on YouTube. I'm not saying that working on YouTube is off limits. Once in a blue moon, I do want to edit, record, or work on any part of the process. Once in a blue moon, I do want to do that after school. And if I feel up for it, I can. After all, it would be pretty dumb to have a rule that says I cannot work on YouTube when I have the time and want to do so. Enough yapping. When do I actually lock in with YouTube? When is now? My original thought was to work on YouTube for the same amount of time that I would go to school during a school day. That means Saturday and Sunday are exclusively for YouTube. Though my therapist quickly brought it to my attention that this would mean working 7 hours a day with no breaks. And when you say it that way, it's an automatic no-go. CGP Grey made a video titled A Weekend Wednesday, which I highly recommend you watch after this. In the video, he explains that moving one of your weekend days to Wednesday can drastically improve your energy and life as a whole. That is, of course, assuming you have the freedom to make that change. Unfortunately, I do not have such freedom. But I can implement half of that. He goes on to explain that your weekend only feels like one day because you're only getting one true day of rest. His theory is that throughout the week, you get progressively more tired. And by the end, you are so exhausted that on Saturday, you couldn't even do anything that would be considered relaxing. And so on Sunday, you have the true weekend experience. But on Monday, you feel like you only got one true day of weekend because on Saturday, you were so exhausted that you feel like you couldn't truly enjoy it. But his point was that a day of rest will never go unappreciated. Even if you only have Saturday and you're exhausted, it's still a day to recharge nonetheless. And by spacing out these days of the weekend, you minimize the time from the previous day of rest to the next day of rest. This can effectively take the load off of the grind of a 5-day week. Now, well, this is not possible for me to implement with school, but I can take some of the concepts from it and apply it in my own way. As I mentioned before, I'm using the week for school and to focus on my physical and mental health. After all, school is shorter than a job. If you apply this concept on a smaller time scale, you can think of when you get home from school as being the weekend and the school day being the week. This way, it makes the entire week not feel like a marathon, but rather a bunch of small sprints. And that makes it feel a lot more manageable. But training for the 100-meter will not get you a good marathon time. They're fundamentally different things. What I'm trying to say is that no amount of school will help you with YouTube to a noticeable degree. So when, then, do I work on YouTube? Saturday to me is a day of rest. But I try to make it a true day of rest, one where I actually do things. At 10 a.m., I go to the gym with my dad, and then we go out to eat. We make it a pretty fun experience. Throughout the day, I try to get my chores done, so I have no responsibilities on Sunday. Generally, I'll just try to have good experiences on Saturday, truly relaxing experiences. Not scrolling YouTube for hours, but maybe watching a TV show with the family. It's relaxing, but in a fulfilling way, if that makes any sense. Okay, I get it, you may be saying, but when do you actually work on YouTube? You only got one day left. That doesn't seem like much, but it is. Sunday, which is today while I'm writing the script, is the one day of the week that I completely dedicate to YouTube. It may seem like I'm slacking off by only working one day a week. How am I going to get anything done? But when you really think about it, one full day of work is equivalent to 1 to 2 hours of work per day during the week. Instead of having many small dedications at inconvenient times, which makes it hard to get into the flow of things, I have one. It'll be a larger dedication that I can prepare the entire week for. And ideally, that one day does not have any of the annoying responsibilities that get between me and YouTube. Of course, it's not a perfect world, but generally, that's how this system works. And that it has. Today I woke up, had breakfast, and started writing. The only real major interruption is eating lunch. The rest can be focused on YouTube. I'll give my unscripted thoughts about this system at the end of the recording, and maybe in the comments of this video if it's still working for me into the future. But at least for now, it's working, and that's enough for me. Anywho, back to the person talking to you right now, which is me. So, how do I feel about this system? It's 3 p.m. The ADHD medication is mostly worn off by now. This is supposed to be the end of the, YouTube workday. And I'm barely finishing recording, so yeah, I don't know if I'll be able to upload this today. I probably won't because I still have an hour or so of footage to go through to edit all of this. But this is a longer sort of video. It's supposed to be 22 minutes, and it's all scripted. So I'd say that's a pretty good dedication. Yeah, my feet are tired. I'm tired. My vocal cords are tired. You're probably tired. We're all tired.
Remember that hour and 18 minutes of footage past me was talking about? I am now current me editing this. So, yeah. Took a bit longer to upload than I was planning on, as you can probably tell by math that you did not do. And I'm pretty sure that's because having only one day a week to work on requires that you can work on that one day. And a lot of times that's not true. Like I said in the video, I got sick twice before making that, and since recording that, I've got sick another 2 times. So yeah, I need to add fail-safes to my system. I'm thinking I'm going to do that by just working sometimes on the week. Not every day, not crazy hours, just enough that I can get this routine down of uploading weekly. Similar to the vibes from the end of the recording, I am also finishing up the first draft of editing and I'm pretty tired. What is happening? Bye.
Oh, wait, I forgot. Dude, it's been like 3 months. That is all.